What is that makes architecture images successful? Should such images focus on architecture details? Should they be super realistic? Should they be abstract? Should they sell a lifestyle? Should they focus on storytelling? Or should these images just be as pragmatic as possible? Well, let's talk about it. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Fabio Palvelli. What's up? Oftentimes, especially on LinkedIn, I find architects, marketing specialists, and developers arguing on the way architecture images should be executed. Architects often ask for the focus to be on the details. Developers want to sell a lifestyle, often taking away the attention from the architecture. There are always talks about storytelling, which often does not match what storytelling means for each of the parties. This debate between architects, developers, and marketers of architecture has been going on since I can remember. I have been in this field for almost 20 years now, and this is not the first time that I see people discussing this topic online. So, I thought to talk about it here on my channel with the hope to maybe bridge that communication gap that seems to keep existing in the field between us who make architecture marketing material and architects and developers. Architecture is a very important discipline. We spend about 90% of our time inside the built environment. Architecture really is a primary need for us humans. Its formalism and its functionality can influence our mood. It can either improve or decrease our quality of life, our performance at work. Even our social interactions are controlled in part by architecture. With that said, architecture cannot exist without an economical component. In fact, you need money to design and build architecture. The people that enable architects to build architecture are the ones who sell it. Even when architecture is financed at state level, there are players involved in the process whose job is to make sure that whatever architects build is then sold. You sell architecture with a proper marketing strategy. This strategy relies on content, like images and animations, and it relies on a story. Oftentimes, the aims, goals, and ambitions of the architects involved in the design process do not match the aims, goals, and ambition of the developers who then sell it. And this is because the two entities have very different approaches to how they think the job needs to be done. And it's not like one is right and the other one is wrong. Each one player is just trying to do their job the best way possible. Our approach as real estate marketing specialists is to listen and understand the needs of our clients. If we deal with architects, our goal should be to make sure that their buildings get displayed in a way that it satisfies their goals and ambitions, even though we might not always fully agree with them simply because they tend to display elements of architecture that the laymen do not necessarily understand. And this might also have a negative output for things like an architectural competition, for example. If we work with a developer instead, we should know that those goals are totally different. The primary aim for developers is to create an emotional connection with the potential buyer, so to speed up the sales process. We often also do not agree with some of the decisions that the developers make because it reduces their building to factual sales data, which then takes away from the initial emotional idea and story anyway. Then when the two players, so architects and developers, are involved in the process of marketing a building together and at the same time, our job is really to try and help them finding a middle ground so that the story fulfills the goals and aspirations of both parties, whilst still communicating and facilitating the sale of a building. Because, again, as marketing specialists, we should recognize also our responsibility in steering the boat in the right direction and delivering work that actually works. And so, in conclusion, I think that architects need to understand that communication is a crucial part of architecture. A good project will not be seen as good if it's not communicated properly. This in no way means that images are more important than the architecture itself, but and this is a big but, and I cannot lie, marketing will always be needed. We as humans need to be persuaded into buying things. It is a very basic behavior of ours. And a lot of companies in the business recognize that. Look at McDonald's, Nike, Coca-Cola, Samsung, or Levi's. This is why we get bombarded with ads on a daily basis. Some architects are a brand of their own. Think of Zaha Hadid, Frank Gehry, maybe Norman Foster. But the architecture world is also populated by architects who are not a brand. Architects who compete with other architecture firms. And these architects do need good communication to create that edge over the competition and distance themselves from other players. But they cannot do it without embracing the nature of communication. And the nature of communication is to understand and be understood. 3D images and animations communicate much better than 2D drawings and diagrams. Emotional images do that even better. So yeah, maybe some images might focus on elements that might take the attention away from the architecture, like for example framing a building through the windshield of a sport car, but that serves the purpose to sell the specific lifestyle that the developer believes to be important for the potential buyer. And so you see, I think that images should not be an item of disagreement between architects and developers. They should be instead the product of a common effort that both parties make to ensure that the building sells so that they can keep making more buildings. Anyway, I'm an architect myself. I have huge respect for architects because I know the struggle that they have to go through to make better buildings which are more sustainable and that elevate the quality of our lives. And they often have to do that on a super tight budget. But I also know how important it is to make sure that architecture sells. Money, after all, is the moving engine of this industry. Images and animations, well, they just help the process. Anyway, I'm curious to hear your thoughts. I think we could have a nice, constructive conversation on this topic. But as always, thanks a lot for watching and see you guys next time.